Welcome to this edition of the Life Sounds Good podcast.
Today, we're talking to Nina and Roger, a lovely couple from Bolton, Ontario.
We're talking about what it's like to live with hearing loss and the difference that hearing aids can make in your life.
So don't miss out, because life sounds good. Can you tell me how long you've known each other?
1986 we met.
Oh, how fabulous.
Yeah, January 1986.
And you have an accent, so where did you originate from?
I came from northwest London, England, and you came...
I was born in Bolton on Trent, Staffordshire, Midlands in England.
So did you meet when you were still in England, or did you meet here?
No, here. Met here. Guelph.
Oh, wow.
In 86.
And when we met, I was working in Fort McMurray, northern Alberta, and Nina was living and working in Toronto.
Yeah.
Then how did you meet?
I was visiting a childhood girlfriend who turned out to be Roger's second cousin. And he was visiting on business and said, "Can I come and meet you?" And she said, told me that my cousin is going to be here, and her cousins were mainly little old ladies, so this turned out to be the little old lady.
That's excellent.
And we met, our eyes met, and here we are.
Bells and whistles, yes.
Oh my gosh, that's so fabulous.
When did you start noticing that you had hearing loss, Roger?
Late 80s, I suppose. I had worked construction and commissioning of mechanical plant, and in those days hearing aids, hearing protection was available, but you weren't encouraged to wear it, and commissioning steam turbine generators, very high noise, was the start of my hearing loss.
Mm-hmm.
And if you noticed it sort of that early, did you do something about it right away?
Probably started wearing hearing protection.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I did. Paid attention, more attention than I had in the past. But by then it's too late, because once your hearing is lost, it doesn't grow back.
Mm-hmm.
That's a complete truth.
Mm-hmm.
When did you notice the hearing loss, Nina?
I couldn't specifically say when. It was just, I think Roger realised that he needed help before I realised that he did, because they're just the two of us in a small house at the time. But then I applauded his decision to go and get hearing aids, and you decided that you needed two and not just one. And I think the hearing test proved that as well. So that must have been the 90s, I suppose, mid-90s. Well, you had them when we went to Australia in 94, didn't you?
Yes,
hearing aids,
yes.
yes, so early 90s.
And I, when I was working as a machine and fitting shop engineer, I did some education of hearing protection with the employees, and learned very quickly that you lose the high frequency sound first. My father had hearing loss, and hearing protection was not good.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother used to get angry with him when he didn't understand what she said. When she got angry, her voice would go up an octave, which made it even more difficult for my father to understand. It was very, very difficult. I mean, trying to educate my mother, and if she's angry, she's not going to adhere to what you're educating her.
She wasn't angry that often, though, was she?
No.
Oh, that's brilliant. So if you've had hearing aids since the mid-90s, you've really seen how hearing aids have changed.
Yes.
In the last, what is that, 30 years?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
What kind of things are most memorable to you in terms of the changes that you've seen?
Being able to communicate again with the vastly improved hearing aid. Just changed my life totally. Whereas before I'd be in a group and listening to the noise, but not being able to understand what people were saying. Now that's changed, and even in a group, I've got a greater chance of understanding what's being talked about. May miss some of the detail, but I can communicate and be recognised for having changed because of my new hearing aids.
How long was it you had your previous set of hearing aids before you got the ones you currently have?
The old ones had failed.
But you had that make for 10 years at least?
Yes, at least.
Yes.
10 or 12 years.
And then had different models during that time.
When you were using the old hearing aids that didn't help you hear quite as well, how did you feel about your life?
Well, one of the main things is giving me control as to what I expect from the hearing aid, and I can modify the volume. The apps that come with the package give me control that I never had before. Previous hearing aids basically were set at a certain volume for the 2 ears. My left ear is much better hearing than the right ear, so they were compensated to some extent with the old hearing aid. It's even better with the new hearing aid, and that makes it so much easier for me to control what I hear and how I hear it. Maybe I can read a card that a long-term friend of ours sent. It was so wonderful to see Roger. He is truly a new man with his new hearing aids. I couldn't believe the difference, and it was wonderful to have him such a part of the conversations.
That's fabulous. And the thing that you have hanging on the front of your shirt, does that help you have the conversations?
This is my lifeline.
Okay.
Because I am suffering with Lewy Body Dementia, and there's a risk that I might need to call for help.
You had mentioned, Nina, that Roger had been for some testing.
We went to the geriatrician recently for a 6-month checkup, and within that 6 months he's had his new hearing aids, and they put him through the same memory testing and recall of things and hearing, and he scored 5 points better than he did 6 months ago. So we were very chuffed with that, because the stimulation, the lack of depression, just everything has been so different with the new hearing aids that he can then participate much more socially, and that has lifted any depression, etc. So he's very, it's proved to make a big difference.
I'm certainly more stimulated than I was before I got the new hearing aid.
Yes.
Even though you did have hearing aids
Yes.
before.
Yes.
They weren't powerful enough, and you had to be in front of Roger for him to be able to hear, whereas these ones have kind of sense around, so that, Haveen was telling us that moving around and speaking and he could still hear, but the technology to be able to alter the sensitivity of them is phenomenal. As far as the area of the cochlea that was deadened by damage, then that they can compensate for that particular area. And the explanation by the people here has been fabulous. I was a high school biology teacher, so I know about these things. So it's been fantastic.
Roger, you were telling me about the app earlier. Can you tell me about how you use the app?
Well, on my phone, which I use to control what I'm wanting, I have different apps. One is gives me a choice of a program if I'm in a restaurant, where you get all sorts of sound challenges because of the fact that most restaurants are designed to be echo chambers. There's no deadening of reverberation. The app can eliminate noise, minimize the noise, can give a concentrated focus on voices if I choose. It's a bit of a art to learn how to do the balancing, different situations. And sometimes when I'm in a group, it'll take me a few minutes to play with the options and select the best option for the particular group and the particular situation. There is nothing, no even hint of anything like that with the old hearing aid, because it was one set, response time and so on, and it was take it or leave it. I could always cut the hearing aid off if I didn't want to listen, but that doesn't help your social situation.
Yeah.
You sit there like a dummy and listen to the noise, and then go home and complain to your wife.
Who had a good time. Yeah.
How did you feel about life with the old hearing aids when you weren't able to hear very well? How did you feel about your life?
Well, periodically, I'm in a member of an old boys group, but we'd go out for lunch once a month or something like that, and I would go and wouldn't be able to hear anything that made sense. Unless you were right next to somebody who focused on you and spoke directly and gave you the opportunity to lip read, because that is very, very important for anybody with hearing aid or hearing loss, to be able to get the extra response, understanding from lip reading. When I'd been to a group meeting or whatever and hadn't been able to participate, I would get frustrated. I could get some feedback one-on-one from one or two of the attendees if they could be bothered. Well, you'd get depressed and then start to wonder whether it was worth continuing to be a member of the group, because you weren't allowed to participate. You would try and get people to not talk across each other, which made it so difficult. And maybe a couple of times you'd get a reaction, but then they would focus on discussion going between two of them, totally bypassing me. And you'd think, what am I doing? Why am I wasting time, spending time, when I don't get any benefit? And that is very depressing.
What about for you, Nina? What was it like living with Roger when he was?
Well, it's always been lovely living with Roger, but sometimes there's more of a challenge than others.
Say that again.
It was difficult, especially when his hearing aids really kind of quit, his old ones, while we were waiting for the new ones from here. So, yes, he was depressed and he didn't want to participate, didn't want to go out. So I found it a definite challenge. We've also moved to a new environment, a new community 5 months ago. So I knew that we needed to be out there and meet people in our pod, as it's called, 5 other units. So it was difficult that Roger couldn't reach out to them and meet them. Whereas now he can have his own conversation and I'm not there, and talk to people and everything. So it's lifted both of us, definitely. yes.
So you wrote some lovely notes to us. Would you be kind enough to read them?
Absolutely. This is what I wrote. Within a week of getting his new hearing aids, my husband's depression lifted. I had a new man. Our personal daily lives improved significantly. We could chat in the car again. He could socialize independently, and I was not needed to interpret. Thank you, Christine, Harveen, and Nancy at the Bolton Clinic.
Oh, that's lovely.
My testimonial reads, I had no idea that hearing aids could make such an enormous difference to my life. Now I don't feel so isolated and depressed, as I can communicate freely. I have a social life again. Life sounds good is true.
That's awesome. I love that. And that's the name of our podcast.
Oh, is
Life
it
sounds good. So that's brilliant. I love it. What made you come to Hear Well, Be Well?
We needed somebody to service the Widex hearing aids because they weren't working right. So I phoned and Christine said yes, they were familiar with them. And then when she looked at them and said, how come you've got such, not useless, but less power you could do with something that was more powerful, having had the hearing test as well and seen the hearing test from the previous place. So because we moved into the neighbourhood, we needed a new location as well. And we're very glad that we did find Hear Well, Be Well and Christine and Harveen. Yeah.
What is it about Hear Well, Be Well that makes you glad that you found us?
It was really pure happenstance that we came to Hear Well, Be
Yes.
Well. We didn't know any hearing place in Bolton. And I can't remember, but we lucked out by finding Hear Well, Be Well and all the support that has made so much difference.
It's
Very,
always
very special.
a cheerful place to come into and explaining how things work and why they work and what they can do for you and the gizmos that you can get to go with it, because you have a PAL as well, and the app. And Harveen's been so good if we have problems with the phone and coming up with suggestions as to what to do, because Roger will go and have a nap in upstairs and he'll mute his hearing aids. So I either have to go up the stairs, and Harveen suggested if you telephone him from downstairs, then if it's on vibrate, he might be able to hear it and feel it, and therefore it was a simple solution, and it worked very well. So, and we just keep popping in.
Would you recommend Hear Well, Be Well?
Oh, I do all the time, and the cards, I've got the cards I can give out and everything else. Yes, absolutely.
Is there something in particular about Hear Well, Be Well that you think is different? Because you've obviously experienced other hearing clinics, because you've been a hearing aid wearer for quite a while. Is there something that you can sort of see that's different about here compared to those?
I think the attitude of the staff in terms of being there to support me whenever I need help, and my medical secretary Nina arranges the appointments and so on, and it's quick in comparison with the appointment scheduling business with my hearing aid, my previous hearing aid.
Yes. Just can't recommend it highly enough as far as the service, the people, the environment, everything. And getting the moulding done, and then the suggestions as to how we can keep them clean, and the camera looking into his ear. And then you can see it on the screen and go, oh yes. Just everything like that, the technology involved. Oh, and giving back to the community, going to the Bolton Senior Centre once a month and helping out with the hearing aids there and everything. So that's just being part of the community. is good.
Thanks for joining us today, Roger and Nina. It's been really nice.
It has been. You guys are really great guests. Thanks again, Nina and Roger.
Thanks for joining us today on the Life Sounds Good podcast, brought to you by Hear Well, Be Well.
Don't forget to subscribe, and you can also find us on Facebook.
And if you have a story about hearing or your experience with hearing aids that you'd like to share, drop us a line at podcast@hearwellbewell.ca.
Hear us next time on Life Sounds Good.